You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey, Days of Our Lives fans. Today, we rank our selections of the absolute worst storylines of 2024 on the Peacock streaming soap. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and we're going to talk about Connie and her cardboard crush, Stefan DiMera, and that other thing that you guys hate. We have got a number 5 to number 1 countdown. Some of these were just bad ideas. Others infuriated fans, and some were bad ideas that infuriated fans. And hey, don't forget to subscribe if you are not already. I will say that 2024 was an embarrassment of choices of bad storylines because there were just so many bad things this year. You know, part of it was the replacement writers, but honestly, you know, the culmination is the long overdue firing of Ron Carlivati, and I do like him. He created some of my favorite GH characters, but his tenure on Days often feels like he's writing soap parody skits for SNL. And, you know, to be fair, some of the abysmal plots this year were started or muddled by the scab writers, but, you know, they weren't all bad. All right, let's dive in with number 5 on our list of the most terrible storylines in 2024 on Days. So the number 5 worst plot of the year for me and many fans also was the Bob Everett mess. Now, if my timing is correct, it was Ron Carlivati who brought Blake Berris back as the character of Everett Lynch. And then about a month later, the work of the replacement writers, the scab writers who took over during the strike, began airing. Everett came to town as Stephanie Johnson's ex, who had abruptly disappeared on her right after they got engaged because he had been in a coma. And then it turned out he was also Bobby Stein, the cheating ex-husband of Jada Hunter. And then it turned out he had DID because Days needed one more person with DID. Abigail Deveraux was the third person with that diagnosis, and then Bobby turned out to be the fourth. Technically, it was Everett because Bobby was the alter. Just, it was a hot, stinking mess. And when Ron Carlivati's team saw their storylines return to the air on May 31st, they were clearly cleaning up a mess. Bob Everett was murdered and everything was dodgy. The whole plot seemed pointless in the end and did nothing but annoy fans. And that dovetailed into the next bad plot that I think deserves to be on this list for Days, the one involving Bobby Stein's killer. The number 4 worst plot on Days in 2024, we think, was cardboard Li Shin and killer Connie. And I will say that a lot of fans consider that this is the worst plot of the year in a year with a ton of bad plots to consider. But you'll see what I mean when I get to the others on my list. And I'm interested to see your comments if you agree. And this is, again, no slight to any actor, no slight to Julie Dove, who played Killer Connie. It was just a lame idea all around, and it was one that Ron Carlivati and his team conceived. Connie was another person with a serious mental illness because we needed one more nutcase in Salem. For me, the only upside was we got to see Remington Hoffman now and then, but mostly just a cardboard version of him, which was... You know, it's like making Flat Stanley a soap character. There were so many better explanations for how Li Shin died. I personally would have preferred that he faked his death to frame Gabby and had Dr. Rolf revive him because they were buddies, and then he escaped on the submarine. That's how bad of a plot this is when I think resurrecting and a submarine escape looks better by comparison. All right, the third worst plot for me was Brandon Barash's hasty firing and the sloppy and abrupt exit of Stefan DiMera. After Stabby fans waited so long to see their couple reunited, waited for the recast, we got Shuri Jimenez, who I do like, and it wasn't long after Gabby's prison release that you could kind of see the writing on the wall that Stefan and his wife were doomed. And it was very abrupt for the actor as well. Brandon Barash said he was blindsided and fired basically because they couldn't figure out what to write for him. That's just laziness, a lack of creativity, and nonsense. Vivian returned. She had Yvonne shove Stefan into a car trunk and shipped him off to Alamania. Plus, Brandon was so salty about this abrupt firing. He said that he doesn't think he would come back. And I love him as Stefan. All right. The second worst plot to me for 2024 was Fake Abigail alongside Clyde Weston's 97th return. Billy Flynn mentioned that he has tried to talk to the writers about resurrecting the real Abby and was turned down flat. Certainly, fans want to see Chad and Abigail back together. And again, this is no slight on the actress playing Fake Abby. I've been a fan of AnnaLynne McCord for years, loved her on the Dallas reboot, but this was just awful because not only was she not Abby, and that meant more heartbreak for Chad and him re-grieving the death of his wife once he figured it out, but it also ripped open old wounds for Jack and Jennifer and JJ and Julie and everybody who loved Abby. It was just cruel. And having Clyde desecrate Abby's grave just added salt to the wound. And just, can we stop with Clyde? Can the writers not come up with another villain aside from Clyde and a knife-wielding, cardboard-loving little maniac? Soaps need good villains, and Clyde is tired and worn out. It's a retread. It's always the same thing. And with him in a coma instead of dead, I do expect they'll resurrect him, wake him up, bring James Reed back at some point. And again, I love James Reed as an actor. No slight to him. Clyde, I'm pretty tired of seeing, though. He is a hick, drug-pushing moron, not a criminal mastermind, but that's how they're writing him. There's no reason for him to keep getting away with this stuff. I hope Days does better in 2025. And now, you have to have guessed it, the absolute worst plot on Days of Our Lives in 2024 was, without question, Body and Soul. It was bad enough to get Ron fired when nothing else did. Susan Seaforth Hayes and Deidre Hall seemed pretty clear that they thought it got him axed and that it was stupid, and it was, and it still is. It's so bad and ongoing that I'm sure it's going to carry over into next year and may make our worst plots of 2025 list too. And there's so much wrong with it. First, it's just an insult to the soap genre that random people can restart a defunct soap, rehire none of its stars, hire locals like it's community theater, you know, from Hattie to Bonnie to ex-CEO Alex to local muffin maker Chanel. It is ridiculous. The only semi-professional involved is Johnny. And then they have been using it to continually mock the genre, you know, disrespect fans. And I think they've also taken some hits at some of the backstage real life drama at Days of Our Lives that went on with Ari Zucker and Albert Alar. They did some hits against that. You could tell what they were doing. It's very offensive. And literally, I know this is the worst plot and how much fans hate it because whenever I mention it here in a spoilers video, that's when a lot of you click pause on the video or fast forward or exit. I get it. If I could fast forward through Body and Soul, I would, but it's my job to watch it, all of it, no matter how painful. So here's one thing that is funny. Days viewership got a bump, and it came out that it was the top rated show on Peacock the week of November 4th. I'm going to show you this thing that Ron Carlivati, he reposted the tweet on his Instagram and added the caption, "Must be the Body and Soul storyline." But for the record, the week that topped Peacock had no Body and Soul scenes, not even one. It was all about Vivian and Philip and Kate and Xander, the teenagers, and Rafe proposing to Jada. One last bit of good news for 2025, now that I tore apart the lame plots from 2024. The new female writing team's work debuts on April 30th, 2025, and gosh, do I hope they do better.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.